I can sit back today and understand that I have made some really poor decisions that have impacted others negatively. And the biggest, best, most important thing I can do is I can work on making sure that that never happens again. It's on me, it's my responsibility. I can't put that on anyone else. And that has been another big thing I've had to learn to do in this transitionary period. Accept things for what they are and how they need to be, so that I don't end up interfering with the process that is meant to take place. I said this in a previous episode. I am no longer in the business of messing with my destiny. I don't get to tell God what to do. He tells me what to do. And the first time I realized that that's how his system works, I sat myself down and started taking notes very quickly. Whether we like it or not, even if it's something we don't like to hear, even if it's something that is annoying and it's frustrating and it's cliche or it's cheesy, it really, and I used to be someone who thought that way, that blah blah blah, the company you keep, blah blah blah. But just growing up, right, and getting older, I'm seeing that the people that you choose to surround yourself with, they actually legitimately do have an impact on you. And the impact is either going to be positive or negative. Period. That is all there is to it, really. Hi, community. Welcome back to Acupfulll. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. How are you doing? I hope you're taking good care of yourself and working on closing off the year well. You know, just doing your best. I am definitely good. Apart from this heat wave, I'm good. It's really hot in Gauteng at the moment. And yeah, it's just very overwhelming. It is so overwhelming. I really wish I could walk around with my fan. Because, girl, no, absolutely not. So grateful to still be standing, though, after the whirlwind that has been 2023. Wow. What a humbling year, man. And I feel so fortunate to be in a much better place and to be picking up the pieces and really just dealing with things in healthy and sustainable ways. Being grown up is so challenging, but really enjoyable too. And I'm just really trying to figure both out without drowning in one and avoiding the other. So, yeah. So, in this week's episode, we're talking the shedding, releasing, letting changes happen, transitioning, whatever you want to call it. I've spoken about this before, but in bits and pieces over a couple of episodes. And today I really wanted to go into a little bit more detail about these changes that I've undergone, that I'm undergoing, and just how important change is and how important it is to embrace it. 2023 has obviously been the year where some of the biggest changes started happening for me. And when I tell you I was not ready, I was not ready. I will say though that a lot of what has been happening and the changes or transitions I've been going through in different areas in my life were imminent, like from late 2021, early 2022. So yeah, somewhere around there. It all started out quite slow. Looking back, I can recognize that. And that some moments were the beginning of a change for me. In the moment, it didn't seem like it, but when I look back now, I can see it. That slow detachment from certain mindsets and certain people and certain places. But I was also really very resistant to it because I was still quite comfortable making certain decisions, behaving in certain ways, and just living a certain lifestyle. So at the time, I was fighting to stay where I was, even though a lot was telling me to move. Because you can feel it when the movement needs to happen. And at the beginning of this year, I said to God, mind you, I was not as intentional as I am now about my relationship with the Lord. So I said a prayer and I asked for protection, prosperity, maturity, and for all the people, places, and things that did not align with His plans for me to be removed. Now, now when I prayed that prayer, I did not understand the gravity of what I was saying. I was very casual about it. Now that I think back on it, and whew, I really shouldn't have been. I didn't know what was coming. When I think about it now, it feels like God said, "Finally, go like move aside and let me get to work. It's like, it was like he was just saying, this is finally happening. I've been waiting for this moment forever. I'm not joking when I say God did exactly what I asked for in 2.2 seconds. At first, it was this very intense confrontation with my issues, the trauma, pain, and feelings of resentment and hatred I had held onto for years towards specific people. But even then, I was still on the run. I was still very much resistant and hiding behind certain excuses and unhealthy connections and just a very unhealthy way of living, pouring my energy into reviving dead or dying relationships and feelings so that I wouldn't have to confront my stuff. It was distractions really. And then I started losing people and having to let them go. Now this has happened throughout the year, and this one was the biggest blow. Like having to let go of people, losing people, coming to an understanding that this is just not going to work anymore. Yeah, it has been very difficult for me, because also when I form connections with people, when I am in relationship with people, I am the kind of person that wanted to last for a long time, and I guess that's something that is going to have to continue being my work in progress, or the thing that I work on, because sometimes people are not going to be there forever, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you unless there is, and like you are the common denominator. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the other person unless there actually is something wrong, and there's just something wrong in general with the kind of people you're attracting and the kind of people you're allowing into your life. But otherwise, there's nothing wrong for relationships to come to an end. There's nothing wrong for you to outgrow certain people and for them to outgrow you. So yeah, although I was aware that some relationships just needed to go from last year already, I just could not bring myself to let go, because I had this picture in my head that these were meant to be my forever people. There were just so many memories shared, so many plans made, and it really did not help that I struggled to let go. Again, I'm working on it, and I think I'm making good progress. I really do. So I obviously was struggling big time with accepting that things have run their course. When you genuinely love and care for people, and you have just never ever had to imagine life without them, it's so hard to say goodbye, even when it is evident that it's time to move on. When I look back, I can see that God answered that prayer fully. Not because He wanted to punish me, but because it was the time, and because He has other plans for me. Things needed to really start changing in my life in ways that I otherwise wouldn't have done or initiated on my own. Having to move on from people that I still love wholeheartedly, that I loved wholeheartedly, and some that I still love, has taught me so much. Especially that some people, no matter how much love there is, were only meant to be around for a certain period of time. And that no matter what I try and do, or just how much I wish things were different, they just aren't. And I need to accept that. And that has been another big thing I've had to learn to do in this transitionary period. Accept things for what they are and how they need to be, so that I don't end up interfering with the process that is meant to take place. I said this in a previous episode. I am no longer in the business of messing with my destiny. I don't get to tell God what to do. He tells me what to do. And the first time I realized that that's how His system works, I sat myself down and started taking notes very quickly. And that's just how it's been ever since I realized. Um, yeah, change is inevitable. If I'm serious about living the life I want to live, becoming the woman I want to become, achieving the success I want, I need to change. Things need to change. My surroundings need to change. The company I keep needs to change. How I handle money needs to change. What I consume on social media, and just in general, needs to change. And all of these realizations are what have really made me understand that this will not be easy, but it will be worth it in the long run. Um, Another thing that really started to happen for me is losing places. But this also happened way before, so I don't think I'm going in order anymore. But I started to lose places, and when I say losing places, I mean just the things that I used to enjoy doing, the things that used to be fun for me, the things that used to be appealing to me, and going to those places, groove, going out all the time, going to certain places for lunch and drinks and just to have a good time. That kind of came to a stop. But this was also mostly because I was flat broke and unemployed, which was also yet another humbling experience. The transitionary period has been extremely humbling for me, and it has been very eye opening as well. And yeah, I've had to just sit down and understand that some things have just needed to go, that they are not good for me, and that I need to also accept that they were never good for me in the first place, you know? Um, yeah, I also was like having a difficult time during my period between my last job before the work that I'm doing right now. Although I voluntarily left, between my last job and yeah, like I said, the work that I'm doing now, that was just like it was just such a very difficult space for me to be in. But I left because I was in such an unhealthy place. Left that place of employment because I was in such an unhealthy place, and I believe that this was part of the changes that needed to happen for me. There needed to be a change of mindset as well. Yeah, I needed to work on how I feel about certain things, like money, because I was deeply consumed with money and using it in non conducive ways. Just overindulging when it came to clothes, food, alcohol, makeup, shoes, living way beyond my means, just living to impress people and not living for myself. And I always, just this is also for me, personal experience, will always go back to the struggles that I was having with myself and the relationship that I did not have with myself. So it was just easier because of I didn't necessarily know what I want, what actually makes me happy, what I actually enjoy doing, like really, really enjoy doing. I was just doing what everybody else was doing. I was just like overindulging in other things that I shouldn't have been overindulging in, and using money recklessly. But then also, it was just the deeper issues that I had where I was trying to fill those holes, fill those wounds with material things, and that just wasn't going to work. So yeah, then um, just before the losing of the people happened, it's just like I lost that part of me that was a part of me for a long time, like being fun, having fun, um consuming alcohol all the time, just going out a lot. Yeah, so these transitions are happening over a long period of time for me. Like, this is happening from like 2021, and even though I didn't know it was a transition at the time, it's happening, right? And um I'm realizing, and I have realized, that not living for yourself gets so exhausting. It's so unsustainable too. Doing things because everyone else is doing them also gets old at some point, and I realized that I actually did not want to live like that, nor did I have to. And when that light bulb went on, a lot of how I used to think about specific things just started changing. Like, over time, things just started to change. A lot of what I used to enjoy was not enjoyable anymore at all. A lot of the kinds of things that used to attract me to people just faded away. Um, I remember when it came to friendships in the earlier part of my 20s, it really used to be about, do we have the same or similar interests? Have they got a fun, outgoing personality? Um, are they the kind of person that I could go out and have a good time with? And with romantic partners, romantic interests, in my earlier 20s, it was also very similar. Just a lot of a person's appearance, how they presented themselves, and yeah, their personality and things like character didn't count for me at the time. Um, Things like whether this person has an interest in being good to other people, serving other people, was not something that I considered. Whether this person has values, whether they have morals, whether they have ethics, was not something I considered. And during this change, this transitionary period, um, it has become vital for me to look into those things. And as much as, of course, I will not take away from the fact that it's great for you to be attracted to a romantic partner physically. It is something to be considered. It cannot be the only thing to be considered. It's great to be around other women who you can go get your nails done with, or go get your lashes done with, or go do girly stuff with, but that is not the only part of the relationship that is going to be playing out. It's not the only thing that you should be considering, so things like that. And I like to call it both growth and transition or change, because what happens is a sort of coming into yourself, which is exactly what has happened for me. Wow, it really has happened for me. It's like all along I was still searching for who Tsegetso is, and as much as I thought I knew her and that she had found herself, she had not really. So it's like it's happening where I'm coming into myself and I'm getting a better understanding of who I am as a person and my needs, my wants. I'm more aware of my flaws. I'm more aware of the things that I need to work on, the things that really, really, really will affect how I relate to other people, right? So, yeah. And the biggest thing that all of this change is teaching me, another big thing that I'm learning, that there were parts of me I had not discovered yet, and parts of me that I thought were the final me, but were actually just I'm still figuring myself out. Don't get me wrong, I'm still trying to figure things out and still learning about myself and discovering myself. But the biggest difference is that the picture's getting clearer. Like just the coming into myself, my sense of self is coming together. I am really falling in love with me. That becoming her thing. That's really where I'm at. My self confidence is coming together. How secure I feel is coming together. My likes and dislikes, without the influence of social media, friends, family, or politics, is coming together. Even my political views and views on socio-economic issues are coming together. Bit by bit, the woman that I know I'm meant to be and that I know I'm meant to become is becoming. I was I was thinking back on how I used to handle certain situations just the other day in comparison to how I have been handling them now. And it really is showing, it's indicating that there's been a lot of growth and maturity on my part. It's also showing that I'm becoming more and more accountable and committed to just being grown, being mature. It is indicating that I'm intentional and involved in my own life without wanting or expecting other people to handle the things I am solely responsible for handling. I'm a grown up, I'm a grown woman. Today I can sit back and acknowledge that I've experienced a lot of pain and trauma in my almost 28 years of life, but I'm not going to run from it. Instead, I'll deal with it in practical, healthy, and sustainable ways. Drinking, smoking, partying, sex, shopping, anger, and having big outbursts are not healthy coping mechanisms. And I had to sit myself down and decide on it. They aren't healthy coping mechanisms. The things that I just mentioned, if you choose that you're going to participate in them, if you choose that you're going to do them and they're going to be part of your life, you cannot be doing those things aggressively all the time and use them as methods of coping. Because the thing with unhealthy coping mechanisms is you need to do it constantly for it to work. Like for that void to be filled, you need to, because it runs out. There, in my experience, there is an actual fulfillment from an unhealthy coping mechanism. So you need to keep doing it. You need to keep going back. And I just realized that that's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not good for me. It's not practical. It's not healthy. It is not sustainable. I can sit back today and acknowledge that I have not been a good friend in the past, that I have expected others to feel sorry for me and be the victim in the story, and I've been okay with staying in that place. I can acknowledge today that in past romantic relationships, I brought baggage into that space, and then it would just sit there and I just never dealt with it and expected the other person to be understanding because I have had it tough in life, you know? I can sit back today and understand that I have made some really poor decisions that have impacted others negatively. And the biggest, best, most important thing I can do is I can work on making sure that that never happens again. It's on me. It's my responsibility. I can't put that on anyone else. A lot of the things we are going to have to do, especially when it comes to changing, transitioning, or unlearning and then relearning healthier ways, will require maturity and commitment, emotionally, mostly. In other ways as well, of course, spiritually and mentally. But emotionally, it's just gotta you gotta make that choice, you know. It will also have to become a daily decision or choice that you make. Some days you won't feel like putting in the effort. It will be too overwhelming to sit through that therapy session, or to write down your feelings, or to choose to take a walk or a run instead of picking up the bottle to pour yourself a drink, or to not pick up a call or respond to a text from your situationship or sneaky link. I really don't like those terms, but anyways, it just gives me a bit of the ick. But yeah, you're going to have to block that man on every platform and even report his emails as spam because you're not trying to escape anymore. If that man was in your life and he was there as a coping mechanism and you're trying to do things differently, you've got to let it go. You've got to let go of all of that bad company you keep. All of it. All of them. Because people that are your real friends, like for real, not play, who you share your goals and dreams with, who you feel safe enough to share your goals and dreams with, who you know you like, um, who you know like that, are supposed to encourage you to feel the things that you're feeling and not push you deeper into bad habits. They are supposed to be your accountability partners. They're supposed to root for you and look out for you. They are supposed to be like, girl, get up, or bro, get up, wake up when you're getting delusional, wanting to do some dodgy criminal acts so that you can get rich overnight. You're trying to, hustle, but in not the best ways, in criminal ways. You, you're supposed to know that you have your people to tell you, to hold you accountable and be like, nah, that's not right. You're trying real hard to find healthier coping mechanisms, not to dig yourself into an even deeper hole. If you're wanting more for yourself, then it's just gotta happen. If you're gonna get out of your own way, then it won't be easy, but it has to be done. And you have to understand that even whether we like it or not, even if it's something we don't like to hear, even if it's something that is annoying and it's frustrating and it's cliche or it's cheesy, it really, and I used to be someone who thought that way, that blah blah blah, the company you keep, blah blah blah. But just growing up, right, and getting older, I'm seeing that the people that you choose to surround yourself with, they actually legitimately do have an impact on you. And the impact is either going to be positive or negative. Period. That is all there is to it, really. Allowing the changes that need to happen is giving me an opportunity to realize that other people's success, other people's timelines of achievements and growth are not mine, and I should not be looking at them with envy. That I just need to focus on my own business and leave other people to tend to theirs. Of course, being inspired by others and being motivated by them is an incredible thing, but to do everything in my power to be just like them or better is counterproductive to my own path and my own blessings and my own destiny. I also recommend getting off of social media as much as possible because being on it for too long will have you believing that you're stuck or failing in the nicest way possible. in the nicest way possible. Please find other things to do other than scrolling. Explore. There are so many things that you can do in your spare time. Don't give social media that much power over you. It will drive you up the wall. When change is calling on you, when it's knocking, let it happen. Will it possibly be lonely, particularly at the beginning? Sure, because you are quite literally changing things around in your life, releasing what you have always known. And on the hard days, will you have a longing to go back to what you know? Of course, but you've got to be committed. Like I said, it's got to be a choice. You've got to be committed to fighting those urges. Do your best to resist and just think about how much time and effort you have put in, literally put in, doing something like letting go of bad habits that set you back, of character traits that get in the way of your peace and happiness, of that pain and trauma that hangs over your head and tortures you every single day. I will always recommend therapy, but if that does not work for you or you cannot afford it, then read some books or listen to podcasts. Podcasts are free. You can just download an app. Speak to a person or people of sound mind that you know you can trust. I highly recommend an adult with more experience than you when it comes to this life thing and who is really wise and knowledgeable. An aunt, uncle, mom, dad, sister, brother, or even a grandmother or grandfather. And if you don't have the best relationship with your family, then journal. Write those feelings down, make a video diary, get out of the house and go for walks where you're just releasing the stress and the pressure. Talk to a trusted friend who is, again, wiser and more knowledgeable and who will be both supportive but also unbiased. But the point is, you have to do the work in your life. You have to eventually make the changes. You can't avoid it forever. Another important thing to do is to really know yourself. I will not get tired of saying it because it is changing my life for the better. Start with the relationship you have with yourself. Pick up the broken pieces and forgive yourself for the moments you didn't protect yourself enough. When you didn't leave the relationship that you were supposed to, the recklessness with your own well-being, the poor spending habits, whatever it may be. You could write letters to yourself or journal or let go of some living and thinking patterns, certain things, certain mindsets. This will take some time, but practice makes perfect the more you do it. And the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit. Listen, even go as far as making a pros and cons list, the most honest one, of some of your habits, of some of your patterns of decision making, of the company you keep. When you write it down, it will probably become evident what needs to go, like you're seeing it. And you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this actually is a lot worse than I've been trying to justify it to be. And what can stay, you can also see what can stay and be worked on or improved. I'm also not saying throw everything out in your life because, this big change, this is like this big transition happening. No, because there are things and there are people that can stay, but they just need to be reworked, rearranged, improved. There are things that you need to work on in relationships that you have with specific people, and if that can be done, then do it. I'm not saying throw everything out. I'm saying be honest and see what can stay and see what needs to go. I also believe that writing things down also gives you an opportunity to look into where that specific pattern or habits or behaviors stem from. Again, and I say again because I've said this quite a few times in previous episodes, you need to get to the root to understand the problem, get to the bottom of it, to understand what's going on and find remedies for it. A lot of what influences how we behave, our habits, our decision making patterns, stems from our experiences, stems from trauma we've experienced, stems from pain we've experienced. It could even stem from positive things that we have experienced, but in terms of the pain and the trauma that we have experienced, those things will probably influence the less positive things, the negative ways of behaving and the negative habits that we have adopted. It could be things in your childhood that you experienced in your teenagers or even in adulthood, because even in adulthood we experience trauma, right? So a good place to always start would be at the root. Once you understand that, you'll better be able to work on or adequately deal with the problem or issue at hand. Because again, Not every issue, not every problem, not every challenge has the same remedy. Not everything in life is one size fits all. Transitions overall are really hard. They are foreign and they are often uncomfortable, painful. In the Bible, it is referred to as pruning. When some branches on a tree or some leaves on a plant or flower need to be cut off, otherwise the entire plant will not grow beyond that point. The truth is, resisting the transition or change will have you stuck. It might seem like there is progress, especially if you're making good money or you're doing well at a specific thing, but you could still be emotionally and mentally held back. The trick with life and living a good life, I believe, is finding a balance, tending to all aspects of your life and not just one or two. When it's time for that change, open your heart and mind to accept it and go with it. Like just go with it. Just going with things is hard sometimes, but sometimes that's also the only way. The only remedy. I know for sure that if in the beginning of realizing that some things needed to change in my life, and I'd been a lot more accepting to it, I would have definitely been much further along on my journey. No shade to me, but it is the truth, you know? So please don't be like me and stand in your own way. Don't self-sabotage because you feel like where you are is just perfect. It's just right. It's just too comfortable to move from, and like you've closed your mind. You've closed your mind off to anything else. Girl, bro, stand up. Stand up. Your comfort is not going to do much for you other than have you living in complacency and denial. And you know what? I've been there. Yeah. I think we're good for this week. This is for sure where we are ending this week's episode. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I appreciate it so much. Let whoever you want to put on know that they can go and preview the episodes on TikTok just to test the waters and see if they could get comfy here. The handle is at acupfulll. Instagram handle is at @a_cupful, or you could just tell them to type in a cupful on the search bars of all listening platforms, which is inclusive of but not limited to Apple Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, previously known as Anchor, Google Podcast, or Amazon Music. Have a beautiful remainder of this week. Work when you need to, rest when you need to. Take good care of yourself and be nice to yourself. Be nice to other people too. Spread kindness, please. Lots of it, and joy and peace. Most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.